This is a video on how to replace a steering coupling on a 116, and the part number is 115. It fits on many cars, and you'll know when this fails, as on my father's 1979 280 SEL 116, which he bought new, because the steering will get clunky, so to speak, and you can see it sitting between the power steering box and the steering shaft of the steering wheel, and you can hear that clunking away now. As you can see here, the play. Lots of it. Bit lighter. You can see one end is turning without the other, and you can see that bushing is completely disintegrated. So understanding is you can attack this from the top, or you can take the power steering box off, because you need to separate the two. But we're going to go from the top. So I'm going to take off the kick panel here, starting with the 5 Phillips screws on the carpeted trim, and pretty easy to get off. We're then going to take the plastic trim off below, which is secured on with another 3 screws. The ones you see in the picture are not the factory screws. They are typically those shiny silver ones with the flat heads. You can see one's missing. Now that should have 3 clips at the top. It simply pulls down to then reveal the air ducting. Now don't snap that piece of plastic on the side, because they are unobtainable. So there's the part number for the carpeted trim. It will differ depending on the color. There should be 3 screws on the ventilation port, which feeds air into the door for the demister, including one hidden under the carpet. So we're going to take the one off on the transmission tunnel. There should be one behind it. Now the one behind here has a plastic tab, so be very careful not to yank on that and snap that plastic trim on the outside. You cannot find them nowadays. They just get so brittle. So this will come off, and then what we're aiming to do is drop the steering column, which is going to need to be pulled into the body, the interior, to give the space to pull the coupling off. Now, the indicator cable, actually out of interest, just runs straight down there. This is how you'd change an indicator stalk, and the connector is under there. We need to take the instrument cluster out, and there's the oil line for the oil pressure. So just getting a 10mm on to break it. Do not start the car after you've disconnected this, or you'll learn why that's a mistake and oil will be on your carpets. So that simply comes off. Then you're going to do the speedo line, which you can see there. That can usually be broken with your fingers, so to speak. And then disconnect the needed and necessary attachments once a bit more slack is in the system after these 2 are off. So why we're doing this is we need to attack the 2 13mm bolts holding the steering column from the top, which I will show you. And once that's dropped down, you then need to take the steering lock out, which is annoying, and then you can finally advance. So there's the 2 13s to drop the steering column. We're going to take them out. And back in the early 2000s, my 116 ownership brought me into contact with a couple of good local 116 guys, including MMWA. And check out his YouTube account, because he's got around 20,000 followers and he loves tinkering on this stuff. So here he is with his 6mm socket attachment for the Allens to connect to the old coupling to take these out. That will only be removable once the steering column is drawn into the interior to pull the shaft back and give some space. So the 6mm sockets remove these 2, and you can see the factory paint on there, and you can also see the opening has a marking on the actual steering box, and you want to put that back on there, otherwise you'll probably find your self-cancelling indicator won't work, as MMWA advised me. So there's the Allens coming out. So the thing won't be removable at this point. It doesn't separate, and it doesn't separate because it's a fail-safe. And so there's our 2 6s out. I need to drop the 13s, which I'm going to get through the instrument cluster port. So after these 2 13s are out, you need to remove the 10mm at the base of the steering column at the footwell, just behind the brake pedal. So remember to take that one out, and then you'll be able to draw the steering wheel into the interior, creating enough space to get the loosened coupling off. So once they're out, the column will drop. Now the annoying thing is that the bloody steering lock needs to come out. This is a job that's absolutely despised by all, I think. You can see there the clamp holding it in there, but it's got that little button you've got to depress. So once that's out, and the final 10mm along the firewall is out, you can pull the steering wheel into the cavity. Remember that 10 has to come out right down there. And once that comes off, you can then retract the steering wheel into the interior, and that creates space. So we just need to push it in a little bit more, and then the coupling can come off. So by just sliding that off, we can now get the old coupling out. And when you look at this thing, you can see the space that's in there to receive the new one. But this is an absolute abomination. There is no rubber bushings at all between those. But you can see safety design, it can't completely detach. Even if they're disintegrated, it just gets very clicky and very sloppy. So there's the new one with the appropriate part number, around 170 US dollars, I think, from memory, from the US Classic Center. And that's a 123 steering coupling. They're not the same part. Now that has a rubber disc on it. This one's quite rigid. I'm not sure if that's still acceptable. So a little bit different to that used on the 126, which is surprising. I thought they'd probably be the similar sort of design. So there's the new one at the top with a nice bright yellow paint on it. It's time to put this on the car. So there is a little rubber bushing that goes around the steering shaft in there, which we've taken out, and we're going to put a bit of grease on it so it just spins a little bit more freely. So you can see here the bushing with the appropriate part number, and then we're just going to put some grease in there just to see if that helps the thing spin anyway, seeing we've got it out. Surprisingly, that was still kind of flexible, despite the heater be subjected to in the engine bay. Maybe it's worse in the V8s. So on it goes again to sit over the shaft, and then it is time to put the new coupling on, and we're going to line up this area here, which was too tight. So we've just opened this up with a hammer, otherwise it wouldn't go on. Line that groove up that gets clamped down by the Allens where that marking is again, all right, to make sure it goes on the same way. Also check your paint markings to make sure that everything is aligned. The first 6 to go on the power steering box end is fine because that's not going to move. So we're going to crank that up. And that part's looking nice and new. Then basically what you're going to do, this is a 2-person operation. You need someone in the cavity to line this up, because as you push the steering column in, that circular bit will not line up without close attention. So as you're doing that, someone has to be at the engine end to line it up. Compared to the other thing, which was flopping around. And if we come around here, not as much. No horrible clunking. All right,